Is there some kind of contest going on behind the scenes among executives that I don't know about? Like they're betting whoever pisses off people the most in a given week will get like a free yacht or something. From Microsoft and Xbox shutting down some of their best studios like Tango Gameworks and just making moves that lose trust in the Xbox brand, to PlayStation just taking something really good and pissing people off and making moves that just are detrimental to this good thing they have. So Helldivers 2, many of you may recall, tried to make it so that people have to link their Steam account to a PlayStation Network account, which was very restrictive to people outside of countries that support PlayStation Network. PSN is not supported in all countries, as this Reddit user points out. PSN is available in 69 countries around the world. Nice. And outside of that, people can't create those kinds of accounts. And if they do, under the false pretense of living in countries where PSN is available when they're not in fact in that country, then Sony has the right to ban you for false credentials. It just felt like a really dumb move when for months Helldivers 2 enjoyed not having that mandate in place and everything was working just fine. So the backlash was pretty intense and severe. People really organized and fought very, shall we say, democratically. And yeah, the end result was that they eventually reversed this account linking requirement, stating, quote, the May 6th update, which would have required Steam and PlayStation Network account linking for new players and for current players beginning May 30th, will not be moving forward. We're still learning what is best for PC players, and your feedback has been invaluable. Now with this, we thought, okay, we won. Like, Sony's reversing everything, and, you know, we can go back to just playing the game, having fun, and people around the world will continue to have access to the title. And so there was this movement to now change the reviews, and we've been seeing tons of positive reviews now flood the game. While recent reviews are still mixed, the fact that it went from less than 20% to now 67% from hundreds of thousands of reviews within the span of a few days, that's still pretty impressive. But the thing is, we haven't won. Not fully, at least. Yes, the PlayStation account mandate has been reversed and eradicated, but there's still one aspect that remains. Recall that after the mandate was issued, before its reversal, SteamDB highlighted how Helldivers 2 is suddenly no longer purchasable in 177 countries where PSN is not available, but some are still available, like Baltics. So because Sony realized that by selling Helldivers 2 in countries outside of the ones that PSN supports, they're essentially locking those people out of the game. Their thought process was, well, then let's make the game not purchasable in those countries so that more people aren't able to get into a game that will eventually become inaccessible to them as a result of the PSN account mandate. But people figured, well, now that the PSN account mandate has been reversed, there's no need to block the game from being purchasable in all of these countries. And so the expectation was that along the PSN mandate, blocking the game from all these countries, that would be reversed as well. But unfortunately, that has not happened. And not only is there a lack of activity on the reversal of blocking the game from these countries, Sony has added to the list of countries that are now blocked. Remember how SteamDB noted that Helldivers 2 is still available in certain regions like the Baltics, where PSN does not support? Well, Sony has rectified that by adding the Baltics now to the list of purchase restricted countries, alongside all of these that were added back in May 4th, 2024. So if anything, Sony has doubled down on blocked countries instead of reversing that aspect alongside the reversal of the PSN account mandate. And with people now seeing that there is not only a lack of activity on reversing the blocked countries, but they're adding more countries to the list, we're seeing tweets like these that are going viral. This one already has almost 5 million views and over 83,000 likes. It reads right here, the Helldivers 2 community was tricked by Sony. Sony declared having a PSN account would be mandatory to play Helldivers 2. The community revolted and trashed the game's review score to 13% positive. Sony walked it back and stated they wouldn't be making PSN mandatory. Declaring victory, the community undid the massive wave of negative reviews, yet Sony did something sinister in the background. They restricted Helldivers 2 from being purchasable in all 177 countries where PSN isn't available, and they added 3 more again to that list, the Baltics. They fooled you, and the devs are still fighting to fix it. And now people are getting wind of this, which might be why the recent review score has kind of stalled at mixed. And it's important to note that all of this is not being done by Arrowhead Studios, the developers of Helldivers 2. This is all Sony Interactive Entertainment. They signed this statement right here. The developer straight up said that it was Sony who mandated the PSN account linking, and they had to reach out to Sony and PlayStation to undo that. The developers are on the side of the community. They don't want the game to be inaccessible in countries outside of the ones that PSN support. They don't want the game blocked and delisted from those countries. But Sony, for some reason, I don't know what the hell they're thinking. Are they allergic to more money and more players playing their game and spreading the good gospel of Helldivers 2? Now, Arrowhead CEO got wind of people complaining about the fact that Helldivers 2 is still blocked from 177, now 180 countries. He did respond. He's always been very communicative, which I appreciate about him. He said, sorry, no updates on that front. I'm speaking to our partners at PlayStation and Valve and pushing for it to be undone. Getting the account linking took a Herculean effort, but I won't rest in my desire to have it available everywhere, which is fantastic to see that the folks at Arrowhead are making every effort they can, but it is ultimately up to Sony. It is their decision because Arrowhead ultimately is under the Sony and PlayStation banner. So if Sony decides for whatever reason that they don't want to reverse this, and I don't know why they wouldn't want to reverse blocking the game from 177 to 180 countries, then the game just won't be back. And we're going to continue getting situations like this one. Here's a content creator who's lost access to their main Helldivers 2 account because they live in the Philippines, can't buy it because it's been removed from the store. And days later, they're still in a situation that Helldivers 2 has not been relisted yet. They're adding more countries to the ban list, if anything, like the Baltics. And so folks like these are just completely booted out of the game, unable to play it, even though they've been enjoying this experience and things were just fine when all these countries were available, when all these countries were supported, and when the game was listed in all of these countries. Why Sony would restrict the game from these countries is baffling. The only reason I can think of is that they still want to enforce PSN account linking. They're taking a step back now, but in the future, they do plan to enforce PSN linking. And you can see right here that this situation is not specific to Helldivers 2. This wasn't just some unfortunate accident or error or technical issue. This is Sony's goal, judging by the fact that it's not just Helldivers 2 that has purchase restrictions on countries that are not supported by PlayStation Network. Ghost of Tsushima, which is coming out on PC soon, is seeing a similar level of restrictions, is not being sold in the same countries that Helldivers 2 was recently restricted from. You can see right here, if you go to SteamDB and look at its history, all these countries are ones that PSN do not support. It's the same list of restricted countries where the game cannot be purchased that Helldivers 2 has. Funny enough, they did accidentally add Japan to the purchase restricted countries. They've recently removed that. So you can see that it's a very conscious effort. The end result for Ghost of Tsushima is that we're seeing people who are in those countries not supported by PSN, who pre-ordered the PC version of Ghost of Tsushima Director's Edition, getting notices that their pre-orders have to be canceled because the game will not be accessible in the country that they live in. So here's PC Nation who tweeted, breaking, Ghost of Tsushima is no longer available in countries without PSN and is being removed from stores in those regions, even if you just want to play single player. That's the thing. Like, yes, Ghost of Tsushima has that multiplayer component, and it'd be one thing if it was optional to link to PlayStation Network to play the multiplayer, but for those who just want to play the single player, the fact that there's any kind of restriction or account linking requirement at all is absolutely ridiculous. Like, Helldivers 2 is an online live service multiplayer game. Ghost of Tsushima is primarily a single-player campaign-driven experience. Any sort of account linking requirement should not exist whatsoever. And so, for example, people who purchased the game, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut from Green Man Gaming, have been getting this kind of message if they live in a country where PSN isn't supported. Thank you very much for choosing to pre-purchase Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut through our store. Due to an issue beyond our control, the multiplayer modes in Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut will no longer be available to play without linking a PSN account, and unfortunately, your region is restricted from creating a PSN account. As a result, we have removed the product from our store in your region and will be refunding in full all customers who pre-purchase Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut from countries unable to create PSN accounts. accounts. This refund will take up to 5 to 7 days. We apologize for any disruption this may have caused. If you have any questions, please contact our customer support team, yada, yada, yada. So because of the mandate for the multiplayer component to require linking to a PSN account, the single-player campaign experience is also being impacted since it's all one package that comes together. And so even if you just want to access the single-player campaign, if you live in a country that PSN isn't supporting, you're screwed. So asinine and baffling is this move that there are tons of people basically encouraging piracy at this point in those regions. Here's PC Nation saying piracy has never been so justified in those regions. I mean, you might as well be able to argue that you're not technically harming Sony by pirating the game in those regions, since Sony never planned to make money off of customers in those countries through their PC launches in the first place. The fact that Ghost of Tsushima is also getting caught up in all of this, word about that is spreading far and wide. So right here we have Tom Warren from The Verge, who sarcastically tweeted, "Microsoft, we're closing Xbox studios and everyone hates that. Sony, hold my beer." Now, obviously, Microsoft's situation is worse because they're closing down studios. People are losing their livelihoods. IPs are getting butchered, and teams that created these games are now being split apart. And so that's definitely a more severe situation than what's going on here. But it doesn't change the fact that both of these companies seem to be doing everything in their power to take something good and just like make people lose faith in their future decisions along the way. Tom Warren did make a clarification because people kind of didn't like that he was blocking a game from countries out to be as severe as people losing their livelihood. So he tweeted, "To be clear, maybe hold my beer isn't quite right here, but my point is Microsoft and Sony have both been making weird decisions recently. Of course, layoffs are worse than a game not being available, but unfortunately, they've both been doing those too." Yeah, I mean, Sony has also been laying off people and closing down studios as well. But the Xbox One especially baffles and hurts because of Phil Spencer's promises surrounding nurturing studios and all these things. And, with how recent these acquisitions were and what was promised surrounding how those studios would be treated, the fact that they're now sort of going the complete opposite and already breaking promises is it doesn't help in putting faith in the future of Xbox. But that's a whole other matter. Sony is now, in terms of them getting into the PC landscape, they're just shooting themselves in the foot. They're just tying their own hands behind their backs. I don't know why they do this. I don't know why they'd want to restrict the audience base of their games. And I warn, seeing that Sony hasn't changed back their FAQ question here that reads, "Do I have to sign into PSN to play a PlayStation game on PC?" Once upon a time, it used to say signing into PSN is optional when playing a PlayStation game on PC. That has since been changed to some PlayStation games may require you to sign in and link to an account for PSN. This change happened right around the time that the Helldivers 2 situation kicked in, around the time when that PSN mandate kicked in for the game. The fact that they haven't changed that back indicates that Sony wants to continue pursuing mandating PSN accounts, weathering out the Helldivers 2 storm, and then slowly inching their way towards a mandating PlayStation Network account linking and kind of make that the norm in the long term. So this is kind of where we're at with Sony and PlayStation and their handling of upcoming PC games, and the way they're handling of things is screwing over and restricting people outside of PSN supported countries from being able to buy access and play these games for just the dumbest reason whatsoever, the dumbest mandates and requirements that are just so completely unnecessary. Or at the very least, that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the continued blocking of countries that PSN does not support for games like Helldivers 2, and now Ghost of Tsushima, and Sony just doubling down on that by adding more countries to the restricted countries list, and what you think this means for the future of PlayStation releases on PC. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.